I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. We are being broadcast live over Van Buren Television Channel 12 and YouTube. Deputy Clerk, could you call the roll?
Trustee Frazier. Here. Trustee Kelly.
Here.
Trustee Boynton. Here. Trustee Martin. Here. Clerk Wright is excused. Treasurer Budd. Supervisor McNamara.
Thank you. Today's executive summary of what we're going to be going over, we have a consent agenda which includes the board meeting minutes, the prepaid lists, the voucher lists, and approval of receiving and filing the 2025 Planning Commission's annual report. New business includes a discussion on the first reading of an ordinance adding housing standards in accordance with MISHDA Housing Readiness Program, and discussion on a letter of understanding with Townsend Parks Homeowners Association and a settlement agreement with Blue Victoria LLC and Townsend Park HOA. We also have a discussion on a resolution for a long-term maintenance of the stormwater management system at the new Tractor Supply on Sumter Road, and a discussion on a resolution to establish a local development finance authority by Aerotropolis Development Corporation. Can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Through the chair,
Trustee Martin.
make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Support.
Trustee Kelly. I have a motion and I have support. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Trustee Boynton.
I move that we accept and approve the consent agenda, which consists of the following: board meeting minutes of February 17th, prepaid lists of February 19th and 26th, the voucher list of March 3rd, all of 2026, and the receiving and filing of 2025 Planning Commission Annual Report.
Support.
I have a motion by Trustee Boynton, supported by Treasurer Budd. Do I hear any objections to the vote? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is the public hearing, which we have none. We are now into correspondence, announcements, and presentations. And I want to first of all say that March is Women's History Month. So happy World Women's History Month. So I am excited to say that the McKinstry Drain, if you live in the northern portion of Van Buren Township, just went through a final review with the Wayne County Board Drain Commission, and they have approved, and it will begin hopefully late summer, $3.5 million worth of drain improvements in Van Buren Township. The county, and I love the county, I know a lot of people don't, but I do, dipped into their own general fund and came up with $2 million on that $3.5 million. So the people that live on the drain are 1.5 million. I live on the drain, and it's going to be, I think, $30 or so a year for 10 years for my house, which is probably a standard house in Van Buren Township. But we're really excited. I know that I built a shed in my backyard, and I built it up high on high ground because I flood. Everybody in my neighborhood floods. Everybody down the road floods. We all flood out a little bit. So we're excited to finally get that drain cleaned out. We have other. Does anybody else have anything they want to say? No? Okay, but there's flood relief coming for those communities, and we're really happy for the northern communities to get that. All right, public comment. Does anybody wish to speak on any issue that we are going to be taking up tonight? No? Okay. Unfinished business, we have none. New business. Item number 1 is to consider the first reading of an ordinance. An ordinance is a law, which is a zoning ordinance amendment to add housing standards in accordance with MISHDA Housing Readiness Program. Can I get a motion?
Through the chair,
Martin.
I move that we approve the first reading of ordinance 03-03-26, which is a zoning ordinance amendment to add housing standards in accordance with the MISDA Housing Readiness Program.
Support.
Trustee Boynton. Director Akers.
Thank you very much. So before you is the first reading of an ordinance to add housing standards in our zoning code. This was a result of the MISDA Housing Readiness Program, which we received from MISDA in order to take a look at our zoning ordinance to incorporate additional housing in certain areas. What I wanted to do, rather than give my typical overview, is I'd like to introduce Donovan Smith. He is a senior principal planner with McKenna and Associates. Was the primary liaison who worked on the project, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to him and let him speak on the housing zoning amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Director Akers. Good evening, board members, and thank you for allowing me to come before you this evening. So as the director indicated, the township, about 2 years ago, received $45,000 to update their zoning ordinance to make improvements that support housing stock stability, and affordability. So we've been working with township staff, and we've had probably around summer of last year, we did some community engagement. We did some market analysis, look at some of the existing data. We were able to share that with staff and the Planning Commission. And ultimately, what we learned was there was an opportunity to improve the ability or the tools that the township has to allow new development, particularly in areas that are deemed for residential or that are commercial areas. And there was an opportunity to add the ability to have residential units. So what you have before you are two ordinances, the MRD, the Mixed Residential District, and the MROD, the Mixed Residential Overlay District. The latter, the overlay district, allows additional residential uses that are currently not permitted in your commercial districts. Now, all of these ordinances or these two districts are preemptive tools. They're not proactive changing of existing zoning designations or changing the zoning map as it is today. The objective of this was to create the tools that the township could use to attract additional types of development. So the overlay district is a mixed residential district that you can add on top of your current commercial districts, and it adds additional residential uses that were previously not permitted. So you have your Fort Land parcel. That was kind of where that idea came from. We did do a study where we kind of did a mock-up design of how this potential district could look if you developed and implemented this type of overlay district. And what it did was it allowed for townhomes, apartments, and commercial uses to exist cohesively on that parcel, rather than today, you can just have commercial uses. So that has not changed, only the ability to add residential uses on top with an overlay district. And that's not limited to just that parcel. However, it is limited to specific underlying commercial district properties. I believe that's C1 or C0 up to C2. So it's not a district that can just go anywhere. The underlying district has to comply, and then it becomes eligible for that type of overlay. So it does give staff, it gives the Planning Commission and you all additional control on where it goes rather than it just being installed anywhere. And then you have the MRD, which is the Mixed Residential District. That is a new district as well. It is a primarily residential district. It does not have any commercial uses, but what it does is it allows multiple residential types to exist within one parcel, where currently, if you want to have an apartment, you have to have a district that's suitable for an apartment, or townhomes, you have to have a district that is suitable for townhomes. What this district does is say, hey, you can have a portion, I think it's up to a third of the residential uses be townhomes. You could have a third of these residential uses be up to multifamily units, and you can have a third of an alternate type of residential use. So it allows just for a mix of uses, which allows for a greater diversity in housing stock, which meets the objectives of MISDA. So those two ordinances are the consolidated series of changes we're recommending. We did have a public hearing with the Planning Commission. They did make recommendations that we did include. Those were to specify whether The ordinance was speaking on units. It did not specify, so we added a clarification for units. We also added that clarification for the MRD district on the how that mix is to be determined. So when I say a third multifamily, a third townhomes, that language came from the Planning Commission. That was one of the changes they requested. So that consolidates all the changes. If you have any questions on any of those ordinances, I'm available to answer those. Otherwise, I have had a great time working with staff in the township to come up with these ordinances. I've done them in several communities, and they all kind of manifest themselves differently. Sometimes they manifest in full overhauls of the ordinance. Sometimes they manifest in small, minor changes. In this community, it manifested in the creation of additional tools, i.e. your zoning districts, the MRD and the MROD. So again, thank you. If you have any questions, let me know.
I am curious.
Yes.
So if I wanted to build a mixed with townhomes and homes and residential, they would have to be a third, third, third? They couldn't break that third?
You could, there's some variation, you just can't exceed. So what the objective was is someone couldn't acquire that zoning district and do 10 multifamilies and do 100 townhomes. So you
Oh.
can't over allocate. So there is a kind of, it doesn't have to be one third, one third, one third, but you just can't over.
But it's got to be, yeah, it's got to be somewhat evened out.
Yes, it's to maintain the mix or to require the mix, so
Okay.
it doesn't get taken advantage of.
Okay, first reading, we're going to hear it again. So I have a motion by trustee Martin and supported by trustee Boynton. Hearing no further questions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We'll see somebody again in 2 weeks.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
All right. Next item is the discussion and to consider approval of a letter of understanding between the township and Townsend Park Homeowners Association and a settlement between Blue Victoria and Townsend Park.
Through the chair,
Director Akers? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, trustee?
I move that we approve the letter of understanding between the township and Townsend Park HOA and approval of a settlement agreement between Blue Victoria LLC, Townsend Park HOA, and the township.
Can I get a second? Support. Yes, thank you, trustee Kelly. Director Akers?
Thank you. The Townsend Park Homeowners Association has entered into a settlement agreement with the successor developer of Phase 1 of the Townsend Park development, Blue Victoria LLC. This settlement agreement's purpose is to pay money to the HOA in exchange for the HOA and the township releasing the developer from any liability related to the PRD agreement or the consent judgment that was entered into the township on 2014. The Homeowners Association has already agreed to this and is waiting upon the township's decision. The township did a walkthrough of the property in 2024 and had identified several items which needed to be corrected. As of now, there are only two main outstanding obligations which the HOA will need to assume responsibility for under the agreement. These are the installation of a fence around Detention Pond C, which fronts on Morton Taylor Road, and the installation of streetlights in Phase 1 of the development. In order for the HOA to acknowledge these outstanding items, the township has requested that they enter into a letter of understanding with us to ensure that they understand and specifically agree to those outstanding items. Both the letter of understanding and the settlement agreement has been reviewed by our township attorney. That concludes my summary, and I look forward to any questions that the township board may have. I believe, because I know I had spoken with representatives from the Townsend Park Homeowners Association. I'm not sure if they're here today. Oh, yes. I'm not sure if there's anything you'd like to get up and say, or if you're going to be available if you have any, the board has any questions.
Does anybody have, trustee Martin?
Is there a time constraint on the installation of the fence and the installation of lights? Is there a timetable for that to happen?
There is a time, I'm sorry. There is a time constraint on the installation of the fence. The letter of understanding requires that that fence be installed by December 1st, 2026. We do not have a time constraint on the installation of streetlights. Part of the reason why we don't have a time constraint on that is the way we fund streetlights in subdivisions is the township adopts a special assessment district over the district to pay for the electricity costs for the streetlights. Normally, we do this in the beginning of the subdivision when the subdivision first gets created, so that way all of the parcels are under common ownership, and it's really easy to get the petition and signatures we need to establish that special assessment district. In this instance, that special assessment district was never established at the beginning of the project, so we would need to be able to get enough signatures, enough homeowners' participation to establish that special assessment district to pay for the cost of lighting installation. I have offered to members of the homeowners association who I've communicated with that we would offer our facilities. I'd participate in a community meeting, and talk to them about various options to get the streetlights installed, including special assessment districts where we could partially finance the installation costs. But those have not been scheduled as of yet, and we're still looking at doing it.
No? So the Townsend Park has already approved this? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Any other questions? No. All right, I motion by trustee Boynton, supported by trustee Kelly. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Yay. All right, next is a discussion on to consider approval of a resolution for the long-term maintenance of the stormwater management system at the new Tractor Supply. Oh. Go ahead.
I move that we approve the resolution 2026-03, a resolution for the long-term maintenance of the stormwater management system at Tractor Supply on 15455 Sumter Road.
Support. Director Kelly. Go ahead.
Good evening, Board. The resolution in front of you accepts the jurisdiction over and accepts responsibility of the long-term maintenance of the stormwater facilities on the property, and it approves a water management agreement between Tractor Supply and the township for the long-term maintenance of the stormwater system on site. The resolution is a requirement from the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance and is required by Wayne County in order for the applicants to receive their deposits back from the permitting office. To mitigate the township's risk, we enter into a separate agreement with the applicant that requires them to maintain their systems and authorizes the township to enter the property to enforce its responsibilities.
We do these we do a lot of them, so we all know what it is. All right, so any questions? I have a motion by trustee Boynton, supported by trustee Kelly. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Yeah. Next item is discussion and to consider approval of a resolution to consent to the establishment of a local development finance authority by Aerotropolis Development Corporation. May I get a motion?
Through the chair,
Trustee Kelly.
I move to consider approval of Resolution 2026-04 to consent to the establishment of a local development finance authority by Aerotropolis Development Corporation.
Support.
Is that you, Dwayne? Done? Okay. Boynton. Okay, Director Akers, please.
Thank you. So at work study, there was a presentation from Chris Girdwood, who's the executive director of the Detroit Region Aerotropolis, for this particular agenda item. So effectively, this resolution would consent to the Aerotropolis establishing an LDFA on the north side of Van Buren, on the north half of Van Buren Township, to provide a tax capture district for eligible properties which meet the criteria under the next Michigan Development Corporation Act. Aerotropolis will be holding their public hearing on March 5th, and we anticipate at this time that the board will vote as to whether or not to move the LDFA district forward. I know these similar resolutions have been before the city of Romulus, which I believe they've moved forward on, and I believe they're from in front of the city of Taylor this evening as well. We've seen a summary earlier. At this point, I'm happy to answer questions the board may have.
Does anybody have any questions? An overview for the audience would be that we are regionally forming up a partnership with Taylor and Romulus to do a tax capture on industrial properties The idea is to take that money and to invest that money into infrastructure and build out the infrastructure in our respective towns. We are making an application to MEDC through their, uh, I can't remember, it's an enterprise zone, Aerotropolis type enterprise zone. There's only one of these in the entire state of Michigan. Um, the way that we finance infrastructure in the old days was the county would pay 80%, we pay 20. Those days have been gone for half a dozen years at least, maybe 10. And they are expecting us now to more and more pay for that infrastructure. Most communities around us, Romulus, Wayne, Canton, Northville Township, Plymouth Township, have all pretty much put on additional millages to the population to pay for that infrastructure. In Van Buren Township, we're looking for a different funding source instead of that method. And so far, we have not had to go to that method, and we won't. But that's pretty much the overview on that. Any questions before I call for a vote? I have a motion by trustee Kelly, supported by trustee Boynton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? This motion passes. Thank you, Director Akers.
Thank you.
Reports, we have none. We're into public comment on anything you want to comment on. So, just come on up and get 3 minutes. You have required 1.5 minutes at the end of the meeting for any additional.
Well, I will need 3 minutes.
Okay.
My comments have to do more with you putting a moratorium on your last meeting on the ICE detention facilities.
On all heavy industrial facilities, including private prisons. We can't
Right.
touch federal prisons.
Right. So I was wondering why you did that, and why didn't you put one on data centers?
We did. That was any industrial uses, heavy industrial uses are now in moratorium, which includes data centers. But we're not allowed to put a moratorium on a project that's already in the pipeline.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. You should have had one ahead of time. Could have had a moratorium ahead of time before they come here.
And once they
But
walk
there
through
wouldn't be
yeah.
much money in that. So I understand why you did it. Thanks.
Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hal Ennis, a lifelong resident here in the area. You know, on the data center issue, you know, it's like anything else, right? There's some good potential that can come out of it, but like anything, you know, there's a dark side, you know, depending on who's managing it, correct? So, you know, right now we have a federal administration that wants no regulations on AI. And it just seems like we're being sent down a path that most people have a lot of heartburn about. And yet, you know, we as residents essentially are having no say in what ends up in our backyard. And it's just disappointing that it seems like more can't be done to put the brakes on this thing till, you know, regulations can be put in place and such. So, you know, it's just, I think we're rushing down the path too fast without real consideration where this is going. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Naz Simsid. I'm from the city of Livonia. I'm coming here because I'm aware of ongoing data center debates and kind of developments. So I would recommend that, you know, in the city of Livonia currently we have a moratorium on data centers, and we are trying to adopt the German Energy Efficiency Act. I would suggest that Van Buren does the same in looking into this policy, because It ensures a closed-loop system that never draws from the grid, so no increased electricity bills for citizens. And it also does frequent energy audits and public reporting on the data center's energy consumption, so that it can be limited and mitigated. And yeah, I just really suggest that this township does the same. Thank you.
Thank you. We haven't heard that one, so we all wrote it down. I saw everybody grab a pen. Never heard it. Not the German energies one. Does anybody else wish to speak? One last time. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? No? Okay. Anybody, board comments? Does anybody from the board wish to make any comments? I'm going to call for adjournment. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, I got Bud and I got Boynton. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.